Hey everyone. This video was originally recorded back in January live for a webinar that I did, and that original video is on the YouTube channel and is an hour and 15 minutes long. Check that out if you like. Otherwise, this video here is the cut version that's only 12 minutes. This should be all the information that you need to make a digital space in 3ds Max.
So step one, we're going to set up our cameras. And be sure that your cameras are named with this prefix DS underscore and then end in a number. Putting DS underscore on your cameras just guarantees that when you upload your file to us, we can read your cameras and we can verify that in the beginning. But step one is we are just going to create, in this case, a Corona camera. But again, if you're using V-Ray, just set up a V-Ray camera. Right? And then typically your cameras will come in as a perspective camera. But for Corona, we will have to switch this because we only accept those equirectangular 360s. In your projection and VR, you will have to switch this to spherical 360. And I believe how you do this in V-Ray is in your render settings in V-Ray. I believe you can change your camera to out of a perspective and into a spherical 360. And then in this case, I am just going to untarget my camera. That's just a personal preference because that annoys me. And then we just need to make sure that our cameras are located at one of these common heights. And so I'm just going to find my floor. As you can even see here, my floor is really located low at negative 14 feet. So from the floor location, I'm going to now add in that height of 55 inches. Instead of Corona camera, we'll call this like DS demo 1. And so I'm in control here. And this is going to be every camera location I place is going to be a node that all the users move to. And so now that my camera's set up, I'm really just going to copy it around. And I like to place in corners because a corner gives people a good opportunity to move in multiple directions. And then here we can have the user kind of move down the path. And I also try to keep them the same distance separated. I know I'm not really measuring these too exact, but it is a comfortable experience for people when you don't have, say, these cameras are all located the same distance, and then you have one that really jumps across. That could be a little jarring for users, or they might get lost on where the next kind of marker is to jump to. But really for the cameras, that's it. I mean, we're just placing 360 cameras around the scene. And so we can accept rotations, but they can only be from the Z-axis. So second step then is to render. And again, this is the same for V-Ray or Corona. And the main thing to keep in mind here is just in your render settings, be sure that you have your aspect ratio on a 2:1. So we're going to lock that at 2. And you really can render that at whatever resolution you like. I do recommend sticking within powers of 2. So like a 4096 by 2048, a 2048 by 1024. And then when you save your file, again, just be sure that you are saving your image names similar with that same sequential sequence. So like this camera name is 001, so my image name should be the 001 as well. And then feel free to batch render. Same way you would batch render anything. But our step 3 here is to export to Corona.
One thing that I want to mention before I get started, I realized when I was cutting this video that I wasn't very clear on where to get the exporter Max script, and that is in our help center at help.digitalspaces.io. And then from there, if you go to 3ds Max, and then the Digital Space Exporter Max script, and this would give you instructions on how to download and install it.
And I'm just going to trust on this tool that you can just read the documentation to learn how to install it. pretty simple instructions here. It installs really the same way as other scripts that you've maybe used in the past. And really, we do say to use you just hit the export button. It's that easy once you have it installed. But the things to keep in mind, which are the same lessons I had earlier, which are on here, for instance, turn the ceiling on. You need that. And then I've already hidden my site, my vegetation. So that's just the way I organize my model when we are working, when we know we're going to make a digital space. I just put them on a layer. So I'm going to turn off my site layer. I'm going to turn off my vegetation layer. And then I can turn off my environment layer. And so here I really just have already isolated out what needs to go into the platform to be able to walk around. So I need to make sure that my cameras are on. So we export those. And from here, we're good. And we can see that this model right now has about 4 million polygons. And so at the end, when it's on the platform, it will have under 100,000. So we're going to do a massive reduction to this model. And then a few other things that I've already kind of done in this model is, for instance, these are proxies, like the sofa, but I decided to leave it as a mesh because the user is going to walk really near it. But like these stools in the back, the user doesn't really walk around these. They're going to walk next to them. And so I left these as a box because whatever as your proxy is set to box or mesh, when we export the model, it's going to be meshed as that. So these will be meshed as a box. So instead of me having like these fancy detailed bar stools, I just turn them to box because the user won't really see them. They're kind of on the side. But then the objects that the user does walk around, I'm going to leave those more as a mesh for a better experience. We do have an optimizer that will bring this down to 99,000, but feel free to help us out a little bit, say, on that aspect, where, maybe just don't bring in every single object if you don't need to, because it will make your whole experience a bit better if you're just kind of, this looks good. Our ceiling's on, we have our cameras on, we've eliminated all the site models. And so I'm just going to be able to hit this export button. And then this is just going to export for us. It should just take a minute. But in the meantime, let's hop to the platform and we can start making this as a project. So on the dashboard, I'm just going to hit plus digital space and I'll give it a name. This is my 3dsMax demo. So the first thing you do when you make a digital space is we actually create a scene for you, which is just untitled scene. And you upload your images and you upload your model. And I've pre-rendered all of these panos for this project. And I'm just going to take them all and drag them in. So when the model's done exporting, this window just popped up on my other screen, but it will just pop you up to your export folder. And this is the one here, 123 at 2 p.m. Okay, great. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, but we can just file explore it. That's our file. Great. Let's upload that. And these were 13 panos, maybe at like 10 megabytes each. So like 130 megabytes we're uploading of panos. So it just took a second, but no big deal. And now they're just processing. When the pano is spinning like that, that means we're just kind of converting it. And then when you upload your model after it uploads, the first thing we do is search for your cameras. And we search with that prefix DS. So if your cameras do not have DS in the name, you might see this thing kind of come up and say, we cannot find your cameras, search another prefix. But here they all are. Looks good, so we can just hit continue. And now we're going to optimize that model to the 100,000 triangles. And then because we've already found the cameras, we started converting, panos are done now. So we can actually start connecting. So I'm just going to connect pano 0 to 0. And our model's been processed and I've hit the eye. You'll see, yep, we're right under 100,000 polys. So we went from 4 million to this 100,000. So we can hit the view tab. And if everything worked right, we should just be able to walk around. Yep, it's working. Here we are. And you can see, again, we started at that start location, looking at the direction that I chose. And then I just like to rename this to like maybe the lobby. And from here, the last thing that we can do now is to publish it. And that is then where our payment plans do come in. So everything is free to upload, play in the editor, build the experience. But once it's kind of ready to go, ready to share it with the client, we do have a one-time upgrade fee per digital space. And so these are not monthly recurring fees at all. This you just pay once and it's yours forever. And how those would work is they start at $24, and that gives you 5 gigabytes of uploads and 5,000 views. And then really payment plans beyond that are just for more uploadability and more views. And like we could see here, I've uploaded on this project 209 megabytes out of the 5 gigs. And I would say that's actually one other reason why you should use our exporter tool here, because this will actually give you a smaller file size than if you were just a file export on your own. And so you can kind of like save money that way. So because you can get more uploads if you're using this export tool. And this is really what it looks like once you would pay in the future. And so my last step here is I'm just going to hit the publish button. And this is how we make it go live. And so now I can open this in a new tab. And great, there's the link. I can copy the link from here, or I can get the embed code. And this is how I put this into my own website. And then that's it. And if you were to make an update, so like this is published, we gave it to the client, and then say you come in and you're working on the next update for your client. You're changing out panos, you're moving the model around, you're adding another scene. Anything that's happening in the editor stays in the editor until you publish again. And so any change you make in here, your client will never see it. But once you hit that publish button, that same link that they have will just be automatically updated. And so that's kind of your way of then pushing your updates to the client is really through this publish button. We'll do that. There were some features I didn't go into, which is like how to change the time of day, how to really add more scenes. Any more information, feel free on the main website, just on Digital Spaces, book a demo with me. This again goes straight to me. Book a time. I'll be happy to work with you. Or again, if you ever have any questions, chat me, bottom right corner.